Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to the Bad League Bad Pods podcast, episode 1. I am Zach. I will be your host on this journey through this podcast. I am very excited to be recording this. Been wanting to do this for a while. We've got a new season of CRS that we just had the first exhibition race yesterday, and round 1 of the championship will be next Tuesday, as well as NASCAR and Formula One and IndyCar obviously are on the horizon, so um, we'll be getting into that as well throughout the season. But yeah, super happy to be here. I should be recording and uploading these on Wednesdays. We have CRS on Tuesday, and then Wednesday will be a good way. I think for me to catch up on some of the NASCAR media podcasts and stuff, and if I have an opinion on something those people say, I can update it here and as well as look ahead to the next race. So let's go ahead and get right into it. We had the season 12 clash yesterday. It was 30 laps at Daytona. I'm obviously I'm not the biggest fan of Daytona and Talladega. I did win the Sedlow 100 last season, but that was pretty much pure luck. I mean, I was up front for a good amount of the race. But there at the end, it was Dylan and Christian in front of me, and the wreck just so happened where I was the perfect amount of distance behind them that I could sneak by before the line. But to be fair, that was probably the most excited I've ever been for a win. But in any case, last night we had the clash, 30 laps. We ran green for most of the race. I think like 19 or 20 laps, and then um, kind of I don't know if it was a bad push by me or just kind of an unfortunate sequence, but I pushed Nick into Dylan. I guess I didn't really understand how close Nick was to Dylan Hoffman, and then he went up and got Cody, and then that caused a big wreck, and then Joe and I snuck through. That was actually that was pretty cool. And then going back to green, there on that restart, Austin found neutral, I think, and caused a wreck, and then I inherited the lead. Um, and then I think there was another wreck after that, and then so we had an overtime. I took the top. Joe was not too pleased about that. Um, in front of Brandon, then I bailed on him to go to the bottom because I thought the bottom was going to be the preferred lane. It kind of had been all night, I think, but I was kind of mid pack for most of the race until we got to the lead. And then yeah, on that last lap, there was a little bit of a kerfuffle in turn 4, and I got hit a little bit there, but ended up bringing it home third. Solid result. So we will roll off the pit lane for the Sedlow 105th. Congrats to Zachary Tyler, ZT, the third Zach in this league. So that'll be fun. Hopefully nobody calls any of us Zach and they just refer to us by our last names. But um, yeah, ZT with the pole pretty convincingly as well. I think he got it by like 20 or 200 two 100ths of a second. So that's pretty solid. Um, yeah, so that was the clash. Let's go ahead and preview season 12 here. So we got some good tracks. We got 19 races. We're starting out obviously with Daytona. Then we got Chicagoland with 126 laps. That'll be a really good way to start the season. That's a great track, especially in the Xfinity car. I'm expecting probably some long green flag runs there. That'll probably be a 2-stop, I guess. Obviously, unless we get a good amount of cautions. But I feel like I do feel like we're not going to get that many caution fests in this car. I mean, Like I think we did Chicagoland last season with the trucks, and there was a good amount of yellows in that race. But I think it's just because we were so all bunched up and right around each other. But we can kind of get spread out in these, and that's going to be good. And then after that, we have Auto Club again. Probably a lot of green flag racing. 96 laps will probably be a two stop. Um, then you got Martinsville. This one could get wild. 155 laps. It's all going to depend on if people behave themselves. If people behave themselves, then it'll be a great race. But I think we'll be lucky to get like 30 green flag laps in there. Especially, we've got a solid field this season. I feel like we're gonna have 15 to 17 people like every week. So people could get antsy if they're kind of back in the pack. But it is a longer race, 155 laps. So maybe you'll see a little bit of patience there. Then you got Las Vegas, 124 laps. That one should be a pretty tamed race, I think. Las Vegas is I'm not a huge fan of that racetrack. It's just it seems kind of bland to me. I like it in real life, but on iRacing it's just like I feel like it kind of lacks character. I don't know. It's fine. I don't hate it. I just don't ever get super super excited for Las Vegas. And then the week after that, Phoenix, 148 laps at Phoenix. That should be a pretty long green flag race. I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of wrecks there. I could be eating my words there, depending on how nice people are again. But we did a recruitment race there, and I feel like the way that track races, we could see some pretty solid green flag runs there. Then the week after that, March 18th, day after my birthday, we go to a road course. I don't think they did that on purpose, but hey, awesome birthday present for me. 45 minutes at Chicago Street Course, and we actually, this is a good time to jump into these new rules. So for road courses, last season we had 10-minute open qualifying. This season it's going to be 15 minutes, and you are no longer allowed to quick reset. So you can't like complete your lap, pull over, click, quick reset, go back to the pits, and drive straight back out. You got to do it like realistic, like go out, do a lap, come back into the pits, do a 4-tire pit stop, and then go back out. So that's why they extended it to 15 minutes, I think. And then if you have like a crash where your car is destroyed, then you're out. Like you're out of qualifying. So I think that's really cool. Adds a little bit of little bit more jeopardy to qualifying. And I'm excited to see that. And then for the races, I'm really interested to see how this goes. So race control has their system, and at one point in the race there will be a random caution. So there will be a yellow at some point in the race. So the caution, it can't come out in the first 10 minutes or the last 10 minutes. So there's going to be a 25-minute period where a caution can come out. And then they say additional time will be added to the race to accommodate the amount of time it takes to catch the pace car. So I'm not super sure how that'll happen. Will the race be 50 minutes and then, you know, like in iRacing, will it be 50 minutes? And then they'll kind of count how long it takes and then say the race ends here, or I don't know. We should have Ben on the podcast soon. I'm gonna try to get people from the league on this podcast. Um, throughout the season, get their opinions on how the races went and stuff. So stay tuned for that. We will definitely have Ben on before the road course race happens. Ben or Owen or Judd or somebody in the mod team. So yeah, super excited to see this. So the problem that I'm getting to with this is you have a 25-minute period where the caution can come out. So in a 45-minute race, the car can go 35 minutes on fuel. So my thinking is that nobody would pit until the caution comes out. Because if you think about it, like, you're more likely to have that caution, I would think, sooner in that 25 minutes than later. You know, I don't know if I'm articulating that right, but like you can get to the 35-minute mark. You should be able to. I haven't tested it, but I'm thinking you should be able to. So if that yellow hasn't come out, you would just stay out and everybody would pit under yellow. Now, if you got like 20 minutes into that 25-minute period and it hasn't come out, you could duck down pit road and maybe jump somebody and just get super lucky with the timing. Um so my like thought on this maybe for next season was that you have a random chance of a caution coming out in that 25-minute period, and it's not known to the drivers what that random chance is. But it is a 100% chance. I clarified there's a 100% chance during that middle part of the race there will be a caution. So knowing that, I would think most people would just stay out until the caution. So that kind of like gets rid of the strategy at the races. Like I always kind of like to pit as soon as possible and like flip the race. Um, but we'll see. I think it'll be fun. It will get a restart like towards the end of the race, which um yeah, it should be good. It'll keep people like engaged in the race maybe if they don't particularly like road course racing and maybe they got a little bit behind. It'll give them a chance to get back up there later in the race and give them something to race for instead of just kind of making laps. And a track like Chicago Street Course that'll be very interesting. I'm excited to see that track. And then the other rule change was the weekend track conditions. So basically, this season we'll have some differing track surface wear to reflect some real life situations. So a couple examples they give here is we have a race at Kentucky. Track state will be 0. It'll carry over from practice to qualifying, but then a big storm rolls through and gives us a rubber-free track before the race. Track will be reset to 0, and we'll have to race on a different surface than what we qualified on. And then the other example was we're going to Gateway, where the first car is on track for the weekend, so practice is at 0. But in between practice and qualifying, there are some modified practices and races, so the track is much more worn than it was for practice. So qualifying will be set to 58%, and drivers will be on a different qualifying track than they are for practice. I like this a lot. I think it's just adding more variables for people to deal with, and it's the same for everybody. So I'm a big fan of that. Um, yeah, excited to see that. I think that it's not going to be like that every weekend. So if people are upset about it, then you're going to have normal races as well. I've never even thought about doing something like this. But I like it a lot. It adds realism and it forces people to adapt. I mean, you could have somebody who's super fast in practice, maybe even super fast in qualifying, depending on what the situation is. And then you go out in the race, and they eat shit on lap 1 or something. Which, hey, I mean, you know the situation. You need to adapt to it. So I like it a lot. I like it a lot. And that's it for the new rules. Yeah. So let's get back to the schedule. So Chicago Street, very excited for that. Love that racetrack. Um, hopefully we can get a win there. I'm gonna take a sip of coffee real quick. Lovely. Okay, so after that we have Atlanta, 122 laps. That'll definitely be a 2-stop. I think, right? Yeah, you'll go about 40 laps on each set. That setup at Atlanta for me was super tight. They were just there in the officials in the Xfinity car last week, so um, yeah, that setup was super tight. So we'll see how that goes. I was really upset with how tight the setup was because that track is really cool if you can get loose and like drive it off the right rear. But um, yeah, we'll see how it goes. Then after that, April 1st, April Fool's Day, We have Bristol, 150 laps. I am uh, like Martinsville. I feel like we have a chance to have some solid green flag racing. Bristol, I really don't. Um, I say that, but I remember a race at Bristol we did in the Xfinity car where Owen lapped everybody. So we must have had a pretty long green flag run for that. Um, so who knows? I could be wrong, but I feel like I don't know. I'm not very good at Bristol. That's probably my worst track on this schedule. Um, I think. Yeah, definitely. And then the week after Bristol, we have the All Star race, which is not announced what track or format that is, but I'm sure it'll be fun. I guess it won't be at Bristol. We had it at Bristol last season, and we have Bristol on April 1st here the week before. So we do the All Star race, then we go to Dover, 140 laps at Dover, one of my favorite races of the year by far. Love Dover, one of my favorite tracks, if not my favorite track, my favorite oval track. It's definitely up there. So 140 laps, that will definitely be a two stop if it goes green. Pretty much all of these are two stops. And then after Dover, which is one of my favorite ovals, the week after on the 22nd of April, another one of my favorite ovals, Darlington, 128 laps. We are the defending winners of Darlington. Um, I think that's the only oh no, Las Vegas. Okay, so Las Vegas and Darlington are the only tracks I'm defending a win at so far. But yeah, Darlington, that was an insane race last year. That was tons of restarts, and then I got in a situation where I was trying to hold off BC and a couple other people who were on newer tires. But we kept having restarts at the end of the race, and I was on older tires. But and since they were able to cool off so much, they could fire off really good, and I could just stay in the lead. And the dirty air was really bad. I remember at the beginning of the race, Dylan was right behind me, and he was definitely faster. But I just had the track position, and um, I could manipulate the air and stay in the lead. So, um, anyways, yeah, Darlington, awesome track. I think we got the pole. I think that was a grand slam. I think we had the pole, fastest lap, and the win there at Darlington last season. So excited to go back there in the Xfinity car, um, and see how we go. Then the week after that, 29th of April, we got Iowa. Um, Big fan of Iowa. One of my favorites as well. I really like running the top in 3 and 4 there. Although it's not always the fastest, but it is really good to make moves. So I feel like we've had the speed to win at Iowa through the ARCA car and the trucks, but just never really worked out. I remember I think it was Donnelly who won in the ARCA car, and I felt like I could have won that race. And then in the trucks that was one of the disconnecting races. Yeah, that was the first time. That was the first time my internet just um, completely turned off, and I was running fourth, and Judd and Owen had just wrecked themselves out, and so that was going to be a big day for the championship for me, and I was running fourth, and probably would have brought it home third or fourth, and the internet turned off, and I got disconnected with 10 laps to go. So that was not a good day, but we still ended up taking the championship. But that would have been maybe would have got it sooner had I not finished last in that race. We did have a solid amount of speed that night as well. So uh, Brandon Combs won that race, I believe. So 151 laps at Iowa. Excited for that one. And then Homestead, 130 laps. This one should be really good in the Xfinity car. Dirty air can sneaky be kind of a problem for the Xfinity car at Homestead, but good news is you have a lot of lanes to run. I will probably run the top, and even if it's not fast, because that's like the only way I know how to drive around that place. So 130 laps. That'll probably obviously be a two stop as well if it goes green. Maybe you could three stop it. I don't know. 30, 60, 90. Yeah, maybe. The tire wear is pretty high there. And then we have the Watkins Glen, the Go Bowling at the Glen, 45 minutes. We won that one. last season with the fastest lap and pole, I believe. Um, I think we got the pole there. I did a lot of practice for that race because I really needed a win at that point in the season. That was pivotal for the championship last season. So 45 minutes at Watkins Glen should be a fun one. If we get, yeah, if we have the caution late there, that's going to be that could get quite chaotic at Watkins Glen with the way turn one is. Then after that, 91 laps at Pocono. I think that's going to be a really fun race. I'm a big fan of Pocono. I know some people don't like it, but I like it. I think it's cool. Cool racetrack, wide open. It's kind of like a road course, I guess. Maybe that's why I like it. And then we got the Coca-Cola 250, I believe it's called, at Charlotte, 134 laps, or 200, I guess. That's a 200-mile race. 134 laps at Charlotte. The race there last season, that was the finale, and Cody was Cody was in position to win with 2 laps to go. I was right behind him, just riding. I could have probably tried to make a move, but I was content with being second. We had already won the championship, and um, Cody had driven well. He definitely deserved the win that night. And there was a wreck with Austin and Owen that Austin kind of caused. And after pit stops and everything, Austin ended up winning, I think, in the second or third overtime. So, I mean, Austin got it done, uh, regardless. So then the third to last race, we got Talladega, 96 laps. So that could be super interesting depending on what the championship points are at. A super speedway there with 2 races to go after it could set up for some interesting storylines. I'm sure there'll be a battle for some position, even if it's not for the championship. Uh, that will be that will be definitely switched up a lot by Talladega because, and then you have Richmond right after that, the penultimate race, 148 laps of Richmond. I'm excited for that one. Love Richmond. We haven't been back there. I don't think we've been to Richmond since season 9. I want to say, and it was in the Gen 6. That was the race where I was super mad at Austin. I dumped him like twice. Uh, so hopefully, I mean, after that, Austin and I have raced really well. So I think we're past it. But that's what I remember from Richmond. But yeah, I think this should be a really cool race with the Xfinity car at Richmond. Some people don't like Richmond as well. I don't see that at all. I think it's a really cool track, old fashioned. Um, they People think it's a lot like Phoenix, but I don't know. Phoenix is I didn't even slander Phoenix at all earlier in the episode. Phoenix is easily my least favorite track in ever in the world. Um but anyways, yeah, Richmond penultimate race and then the finale at Kansas. Super cool track to have the finale at. Um it's going to be a sunset to night race, 130 laps. It'll be cool if there's a championship battle going into that. Hopefully, I'm not a part of it. Hopefully, I am either already. Hopefully, I've already either clinched the championship or it's already out of reach because I don't like that stress. Um, Now that I've like already won a championship, I'm good on all the stress that comes with that. But yeah, so that is the season 12 schedule. I'm super looking forward to it. A little season 12 preview. Um, we do have some newcomers coming in the clash last night. I mentioned Zachary Tyler with the pole award. He's new. I didn't. I don't know if he was in a recruitment race or something. Maybe he was in that Talladega recruitment race that I was not in. Um, but he seems like a cool guy, and he won the pole for the Sedlo 100. So that's very cool. And then the next two, Dylan Perry and Jack Drucker. Dylan Perry and Jack Drucker were at the Kansas recruitment race, and Jack damn near won the thing. He made a call. There was going to be an overtime. Um, and I think Jack was in the lead before the overtime. It was either Jack or Dylan, not Dylan Perry, Dylan Hoffman, and there was going to be an overtime, or no, it wasn't an overtime. It was like 10 to go. It was like 10 to go, and we made pit stops, and Hoffman and I got 4 tires. We were in second and third, and Drucker got 2 tires, and I didn't really think that was the way to go. Dylan and I were obviously in the voice chat talking about it, but maybe he was in second, and he took 2 to jump to first. But for the first 5 or 6 laps, he jumped out and got in the lead, and then those left side tires started to heat up, and the pace kind of fell off a cliff, and then I was able to get in front of Hoffman on the restart, so I was going to be the beneficiary once Strucker's tires fell off. So I inherited the lead, and then Hoffman went for a couple audacious moves, um, and they were clean. There was not any sort of bad driving. They were awesome moves, and he almost pulled a couple of them off, but I was able to hold him off and win that recruitment race. But in any case, Drucker showed that he was definitely a good driver, and he's going to be a force to reckon with this season. I think could be possibly the rookie of the year. And then Perry, I didn't get to race around him a lot in the Kansas race, but when I was in practice with him, he did seem pretty fast. I know he's Brandon's buddy, and they come from the dirt side. I did see Dylan kind of hanging it out on the high line, so we saw Brandon kind of have to adapt and kind of work those kinks out of running on pavement versus dirt. So Dylan might have a little bit of a learning curve there as far as like managing tires and stuff. But Brandon won 3 races last year. He was definitely the rookie of the year, if you will. I think he was the only real newcomer last season. But yeah, I mean, in any case, they've obviously got raw speed. I think Dylan definitely does as well. So we'll see how he does. And then we've got some veterans coming back. We've got Joe Kraut, 8th in all-time wins with 7 through 138 starts. And then you've got Travis said Zidlow. I think that's how you say his name. I still don't know how to say his fucking name. So I'm going to say it how it's spelled, said Zidlow. So roast me if I get that wrong. But he has 100 overall starts. Super cool that he's coming back. 20 top fives through those. So pretty consistent. If you keep getting top fives, you're bound to inherit a win. After too long, he has not got his first win yet. So could we see that this season? And then possibly Jared R. Young. Not super sure if he's coming back. I think Aaron pestered him quite a bit in our 24 Hours of Daytona race to do so. But he is third at all time in wins with 17 through 76 starts. And he's won on every type of track. He's won 2 short tracks, 12 speedways, 1 super speedway, and 2 road courses. And he's got like 6 or 7 second places at road courses as well. He and I have had some good battles on road courses. So hopefully we see him back in some races this season. Let's get into some NASCAR. Going through the season, we'll talk about F1 and IndyCar as well, but we're closer to the NASCAR season. So yeah, I just took some of the big stories going around, and some of the big stories that I wanted to talk about. So we've got testing at Rockingham. Was yesterday. Xfinity and trucks will be there April 19th. Super excited about that. Cool racetrack. I think it'll be cool to see. Will Cup eventually go there? Is this like a trial run for Rockingham? I think it's obviously got a lot of history with NASCAR, and yeah, it'll be cool. It'll be cool to see if Cup eventually goes there. But in any case, Xfinity and trucks will be very cool. On Twitter, a few of the drivers were wearing like helmet cams, and they posted some onboard footage there of them flying around that track. That was really cool to see. So yeah, not a whole lot to talk about there on Rockingham. Just that it was that it was neat, and I'm glad they're going back there this season. Hopefully, they got the tire sorted out, and we see some multi-groove racing there eventually at Rockingham. We got the Clash this weekend at Bowman Gray Stadium. The Clash obviously moving from LA to Bowman Gray. I like this. I think LA definitely ran its course. We didn't see the attendance probably that we wanted. So, did they do 2 years there, or was it 3? The first the first winner was Logano, and then I know Hamlin won this season. Who was the other guy? Did Kyle Busch win? I don't know. I don't know. Doesn't matter. Clearly a little bit forgettable. The LA Clash. It was cool to see it in a stadium like that, but I think Bowman Gray will be cool. Very small stadium. I think there's like 10 or 15,000 seats there, so it'll be a sold out show, which is good for TV. It's good to have the stands packed, and yeah, excited to see it. We got the heat races on Saturday, I believe, and then the race is Sunday at 8 Eastern on Fox. So yeah, Clash this weekend, and up next we have. There was a video going around of Bob Cockris interviewing Corey LaJoy, talking about why he's running part time in Cup versus maybe trying to go full time in Xfinity or trucks. And yeah, Corey LaJoy kind of just like took a shit on the trucks and Xfinity series, which it definitely didn't sit right with me. I mean, he's not ever won a truck or Xfinity race, so I don't understand kind of the dogging on it. Excuse me, just had a burp on the podcast. This is one take. Not gonna edit it out. Yeah, I just don't understand all the hate. So a couple of quotes I pulled from this interview, from this soundbite from him is he's talking about those guys who go down to trucks, they win one or two truck races, and then they're lifelong truck guys. Yeah, it's just not true. John Hunter Nemechek went down to the truck series, and he's driving in Cup full time. More races than LaJoy this season, and Jimmy Johnson owns his team, and they have support from Toyota. So I think that was probably a good move, you know, because he was driving, shit boxes. Let's say, let's be real here. They were not good. He was racing really hard for 57th every week, and he went down to trucks. And did he do 2 championships, or I think he did 2 seasons in trucks. He ran really well, and now he's at a top Toyota team. And John Hunter Nemechek is definitely not the best driver in the world, but he did go down and win some truck races, and now he's up in Cup. And then another quote he said was, "Do I want to go race F2 or F3? No, I want to race in Formula One." I, it's definitely different than F2 and F3. Like, it's a good analogy if you're trying to explain the truck series and Xfinity series to someone who maybe knows about F1 because of Drive to Survive or whatever, but they don't know about NASCAR. It's a good analogy. But the Xfinity series is kind of its own thing, I feel like. And the truck series is kind of its own thing. Like, yes, it can be a feeder series, but you do have people that just run in those series. I mean, you don't have that in F3 or F2, right? Like, people, those are strictly a feeder series. Um, I mean, and that just discredits all of those teams and drivers that do run, full time in trucks and Xfinity, maybe because of financial reasons, or maybe they just want to. Maybe they have like a family they want to be with more than what allows with the Cup Series. Not saying it's bad to run with the Cup Series, but if you run Xfinity or trucks, you're gonna have more flexibility to like stay at home with your family. There's less races. you're away less of the time. And that doesn't make them less of drivers because they're in that series. Those series are very competitive, not as much as the Cup Series, but they definitely are. And then the next quote is he thinks him and his team can run top 10 any given week. That's just blasphemy. I mean, that's just not true, Corey. And I don't want to start this podcast. This is episode 1. I don't want this to be a Corey LaJoy hate podcast. It's not. I used to be a huge fan of LaJoy, but just some of the things he has said over the past year have like turned me. I mean, I'm very I like to think I'm pretty unbiased when it comes to drivers. I mean, I have my opinions about them because of the way they drive and the way they conduct themselves. And, if a driver, drives really aggressive and he stands on it after the race and he says, "Yeah, well, that was the move I made and, you know, that's how I drive." I can respect that. And then if you have a driver who drives aggressive and, you know, he gets really offended when other people drive him aggressive, like Joey Logano, for example, I don't love that. Like, it has nothing to do with Logano as a person, outside of racing. It's the way he conducts himself. So I used to like LaJoy when he conducted himself in a way that I could agree with. But recently, I mean, these types of comments are just so arrogant and um I can't get behind it. I used to really like his podcast. I do still listen from time to time because I like the co-host, the Ryan Flores, the tire changer. But some of the things Corey says, man, I just cannot get behind it. Now, one thing I did take from his interview to be fair to him was him talking about his sponsors can't justify racing on Friday or Saturday. They want to be in the big show, which I mean, that's a huge problem. That's a huge problem for the whole industry. And do I think Corey LaJoy could not get sponsors for Friday and Saturday? No, I think he could. Um, Obviously, if they're bringing the type of money for the Cup Series, they could pay a little bit less and race in the Truck or Xfinity. But yeah, I think that's an issue. You should you should be able to race. So yeah, that's sorry for the Corey LaJoy rant there. It will not be like that every week unless he says something fucking dumb every week. So that that remains to be seen. Okay, moving on. So NASCAR Driver Cam is going to be available on HBO Max all season. Excited for that. Um, I think I might like pick a random driver every week and follow along with them. Um, that'll be cool. I guess I'm gonna have to get an HBO Max subscription. So yeah, whatever. But that'll be cool. I think this reminds me of like back in the day when they did the Direct TV thing. I never got to use it, but I've heard about it a lot and seen like clips on Twitter. So that's cool. Cool that they're bringing that back. I think that's a really good thing. And then the Tubi NASCAR channel actually premiered today. I logged in, I made an account, um and looked up kind of what it was about. And the first thing I saw was a modified race at Bowman Gray Stadium with Ralph Shaheen and Ray Evernham on the comms, which I'm a huge fan of. That I mean, this is like a race that I would see on Speed Channel when I was 7 or 8 at my grandparents' house, and I didn't have anything to do, so I just went on Speed Channel and watched whatever race was on. And that's basically what this channel is going to be, except there's going to be less car shows than Speed Channel. It'll be all NASCAR stuff. So super excited about that. I think that Tubi channel will be on in my house like all the time. I just got the Tubi app on my TV for it. Um, yeah, and then NASCAR apparently got rid of the rookie stripes, which is just so unnecessary. Like, why? Why? I don't like. We have so many bigger issues in the sport that need to be addressed. Why? Why are we getting rid of rookie stripes? Like, it just shows kind of how out of touch NASCAR is sometimes. Um, and they're removing it for all three series, from what I understand, like trucks and Xfinity. In the Cup Series, I guess I get it. You know, I could see it. Maybe I wouldn't be a huge fan. I like them. I think they're cool. But in the trucks and Xfinity, that's an issue, right? Like you have guys that are on big tracks for the first time. Like you need to you need to be able to see who's a rookie and who's not. Like, oh, I need to give this guy some more space in the trucks and Xfinity series. Maybe this is his first, second, like one of his first like 5 times on a track like Kansas or something. Those, I, I don't know. Am I off base on that? I feel like they're kind of important in trucks and Xfinity, but in the Cup Series, it was like, yeah, these are the rookies, and um, next season they won't have their stripes. They earned the right to rip them off, and it's like it's kind of a hazing thing, I guess, in a way as well. Like, oh, you got your rookie stripes. I don't know. I liked them, and I think it's so unnecessary for them to get rid of them. And again, it just shows like how out of touch they are sometimes. Like we have so many more issues. The short tracks suck. The super speedways suck. And you're talking about getting rid of rookie stripes? Like, come on, guys. Let's use our time there a little bit better. We got the open provisional that is going to be taken by Elio Castroneves. Yeah, I this came out like a week and a half ago or something, and I've been thinking about it. I don't really know how I feel about it. Like, I kind of see both sides. I don't have a strong opinion one way or another on that. Yeah, I think I had more questions than answers when they announced that. Like, let's say Trackhouse wants to run Elio and 2311 wants to run Lewis Hamilton. Does NASCAR have to decide which one gets the provisional? Are there going to be two? Um, yeah, or like once one team requests it, can no other team request it for that race? Like, is it locked up? I don't think they really clarified that. So that was a question I had, and then yeah, it's just I think it's kind of lame. I do think it's kind of lame. Like the point TJ Majors made in the Dale Jr. download was like, would Formula One do this for Kyle Larson if he wanted to run an F1 race? Like, no, it's obviously a little bit different, but definitely not. And then like IndyCar for the Indy 500. Well, I guess that's different now with the charter thing. But when Fernando Alonso went over there to do that, like he didn't make it. That was entertaining, and it's a bummer. You'd like to see Fernando in the race, but we get so many memes out of that, so much content. And it's a great story. Like a small team in IndyCar. I can't remember. I'm not the biggest IndyCar history guy, but I think it was like a small team. Let me know in the comments, I guess, if you're watching on YouTube. But it was a smaller team that beat out McLaren for the Indy 500 spot. Like that was a good story. And you're not gonna get that here, but I do see the other side of it is like, you gotta these sponsors are paying a lot of money for this, and a guy like Elio, that could convince them to go after this. But another thing is like, I don't know if the possibility of not making it in was what was preventing the sponsors and Elio from signing up for this. That would be the question. Like, is this rule what got Elio a ride? Because if it truly is, then I'm on board with it, right? We want to see these guys come in and do these big races. I think that's fun, but um if they were going to run it anyway, like it just kind of seems unnecessary. That was the word TJ I think kept using in the DJD was like it just kind of seems unnecessary. Like it kind of it kind of delegitimizes that car if they end up using that provisional, which is going to be a trackhouse car. Like it should be pretty fast, so they could make it on speed. Two cars make it on speed. Um there's five open car, or I think there's like 6 or 7 open cars. Um I guess it would be 7 because it says 4 or 5 will go home. So um it should be 7, right? Because then 2 would make it on speed, and then 5 would go home. Yeah, so 7 open cars. Um, and some of them are not very good. So I would think the Trackhouse one would probably make it on speed, but if they end up using that provisional, I think it's um, kind of delegitimizes that whole effort, in my opinion. But if they do, they will not get owner points and they will not get any prize money. But I guess their sponsor, whoever, I don't think they've announced the sponsor of the paint scheme or anything. So whoever that sponsor is will get the exposure at least. I think it's like $300,000 to run a solid cup team for a race. So hopefully they get the return on that. Um, so yeah, that's the provisional, and then the final topic I have is just to kind of go over the 2025 season. I think in one of the next 2 episodes we will do. Here's another burp. Excuse me. Got to work on that. Can't be burping on these podcasts so much. Um, I think we'll do a predictions episode for the 2025 season. Um, but for now, I'll just talk a little bit about how excited I am. I really am excited for the season. Competition's really close. We had a lot of winners last season. The Daytona 500 is going to be awesome, even though the Super Speedway package kind of sucks. 45 cars entered. Okay, so 45 cars are entered. I don't know how many are open, but um, I guess there's 9, right? How many? There's 36 charters. So there's 9 open cars. That is insane. The duels are going to be awesome. Can't wait for the duels. And then yeah, trucks and Xfinity. Like I'm super excited for NASCAR this season. Uh More so than last year for sure. Um I I don't like the playoff format, but it is what it is, and it's probably never going to change. Maybe it'll change for 2026. If they just did the old-fashioned chase format, I'd be fine. I know we're not going to get rid of playoffs. If I were in charge, it would be a 36 race season. Period. End of story. You know, that would be the season. The one with the most points at the end wins. And there's been a lot of conversation this offseason about like, oh, how would I do the point season? This is how I would do it. 36 races, just like full season points. And if you want to incentivize winning, just make the points for winning more than everybody else. Like you can keep the points the same. Like you get 40 points for a win, and I think you get yeah, it's every position is a point. So just keep everything the same, 39 for second, 38 for third, and just make winning like 50 points or 55 or even like 60 points. Like make it a big gap between first and second. That incentivizes winning. Make it double. Make it 80 points for a win. That will incentivize winning. Um I think that's just such a simple fix that nobody's talking about. Like if you get 80 points for a win and second place gets 40, that incentivizes winning the same amount that it does now with how much wins mean. You will have guys going for the win. Maybe you do 80 for first, 50 for second, and 40 for third, and then 1 point down from there. Um, that incentivizes winning. I don't understand why that's so hard to grasp. Um, but that is obviously never going to happen. So if they're going to do playoffs, I would like to see the 10 race chase. I don't like the rounds. I mean, they're fine, they're exciting, but it's just kind of a crapshoot. Like we had a quote from Kyle Larson in that same interview session there that Bob was doing with LaJoy, and Larson was like, "Yeah, I mean, we could win 20 races and not win the championship, and I wouldn't even be surprised." I think that's your most popular driver. It is. I don't care about this fan vote. Okay, that they do that Chase Elliott's the most popular driver. He's definitely not. Like Larson is the most popular driver, I would think. Probably Larson or Hamlin or Kyle Busch. So you got one of your most popular drivers saying I could win 20 races and not win the championship. And the argument would be like, oh well, an NFL team can go undefeated in the regular season; they cannot win the championship. That is different. Like you're playing one team, okay? Like it. We can get into this in another episode, but yeah, NASCAR is not football. It's not a stick and ball sport. It's a motorsport, and in motorsports, they do full season championships. I, I don't know why we have to be like football, but um, the 10 race chase thing, that's cool. I like that. That's fine. I'd be fine with that. Because then you have like when Tony Stewart won the championship against um, Carl Edwards. They had a terrible regular season. They won 5 races in the chase. Nobody thinks that was an undeserved championship. Like they stepped up and performed when they needed to. And that felt a lot better than this last season with Logano, who he kind of did the same thing. Like he stepped up in the playoffs and he won when he needed to and he won the championship race, but it felt different. It didn't feel as deserved um as the Tony Stewart one. So, and I don't think very many people would argue with me on that. I mean, I'm not the biggest Logano fan. He obviously won the championship. He deserved it based on this format, but it didn't feel right. I think most people thought that it didn't feel right, except for the Steves. So, yeah, I could go on for hours about the fucking playoff format, but I'm not going to. We're gonna wrap it up there. I think I talked about pretty much everything I wanted to talk about. CRS season 12 coming up. We got 19 races. I'm excited to try and defend the championship. Don't know how it's gonna go. I think Owen and Dylan and Judd are a little bit maybe better than me in the Xfinity car, but I am running another series in the Xfinity car on Friday nights, so maybe I can get a little bit more experience there and in how to manage the tires and stuff like that. But yeah, it's gonna be fun. I'm excited. Excited to see how it goes. We could do like a prediction of who's gonna win each race and see if I get any of those right. But maybe we'll do that. We'll do that next week after Daytona. So thank you guys for listening. If you're watching on YouTube, please leave a like, subscribe. I'm going to be streaming all the races from my point of view this season in season 12, and we'll keep this podcast going every Wednesday and talk about NASCAR and F1 and IndyCar. I might have to do some episodes on Thursday or Friday depending on like my schedule, my real life schedule, but yeah, excited to do this. Finally doing this. I've been wanting to do a racing podcast like this for like 4 or 5 years, so I'm super excited to do this. We'll have some guests on. It'll be fun. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening, and I will talk to you all next Wednesday. See ya.